All right. So I've got the Warriors next. And so I feel like they've been so discussed that there's really not a lot of mystery here. I mean, everything is related to the two timelines and the two sort of different crops of players they have, the veterans and the young guys. And so you could kind of frame it however you want. But the Warriors, like a million other teams in the West, are like a couple games from the bottom of the plan, and then a couple games from being fourth in the conference. It's just a hot week here or there, and they could be there. They've been super inconsistent. So someone who has not contributed at all is James Wiseman. And so I think the real question for them is it worth it? It's not is it time, because I think it's probably time, but is it worth it to trade James Wiseman now? And so the factors you have to consider are, where are we relative to what his lowest value versus highest value is going to be? How much does that matter in the calculus of this season? Because it may be the case that what you get for him now isn't going to help. And so now you've just traded this guy with a whatever tiny percent chance of becoming an all-star years from now for what was ultimately not enough help, right? Like that would suck. That'd be a bad look. You also have this issue of like, do we just hold on to him because his value theoretically can't get much lower than this? And we do think, this is speaking as the Warriors, we do think, there's a great chance that 3-4 years from now, he is a really good starting center. The problem is that doesn't matter at all now, because who knows what this team will look like a few years from now. It probably won't be competing for titles. So the reason Wiseman is the focal point is because they just don't have anybody else that they would realistically trade that has a big enough salary number to get somebody back who'll matter. Wiseman's at 9.6 million this year. Moses Moody's at 3.7. You're just not going to trade Steph, Clay, Draymond, Wiggins, Poole. Poole's poison pilled anyway. If that weren't the case, that would be interesting, because then I think he would be on the table and pretty movable. But so that's just what it is. Like, is it worth it to trade James Wiseman now? Is the timing right? And is there a piece out there that will justify what would be a pretty big admission of like, we kind of blew it with this pick?
I'm just curious as to whether like they're even have the impetus to do that. Do you think that they're at full strength? Any looking at what you think you could realistically get for James Wiseman, do you even think like you're a James Wiseman trade away from being a, and look, the deal that I mentioned that I'm not going to propose here is just like, if you can trade James Wiseman for and Moses Moody for Cody Martin, Jalen McDaniels, and PJ Washington, do you one do it? And two, do you think that makes you like a serious contender?
Yeah, I don't know. I think that's the problem, is like you have to really, it's unclear. I don't think it's definitely not a, oh my God, we got PJ Washington now, and to a lesser extent Cody Martin. Like, we're good. We've got that, our 9-man rotation is complete. This is a title. The other thing is, there's still a reasonable chance that if this was my position last year, if the Warriors don't do anything, they might just have, they might just need to come together and hit, everybody play well at the same time, and they might win anyway. They might win it anyway. Like, there wasn't a trade last year, I thought, that would put them over the top. And I didn't think they should trade the young guys last year. I'm much more inclined to say that now, but the package you're saying is like, I mean, I guess that definitely improves them. Is it to a great enough degree above what they might be able to get to just with guys on the roster now playing better? And is that difference enough to justify giving away a lottery ticket? Like, I don't know. I don't know. It's tough. Like, what I would say is, if Bojan Bogdanovic, who is just sort of like, I guess, the best reasonably available, bet fitting player, if he were available and you could give up Wiseman and Moody and whatever, does that do it? Is he that much better than Otto Porter from last year? Like, I mean, he's a better player, but the Warriors won't use Bogdanovic for, 17 shots a game. Like, that just, the difference would be less significant than you might think. I don't know. I'm just talking now because I think this is one of the most complicated, high stakes situations in the league where easy answers just, escape me. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think they're gonna do anything, and I'm even curious as to what do you view as there. And I know you've touched on a little bit, like if you had to just boil it down, like the one thing player type that they need, like what is it? I think too much has almost been made about the big man rotation, just because I think in the
Yeah.
playoffs, Kevon Looney is fine, and you can go to Draymond at the 5, and you're going to downsize anyway. And so I've just been interested. Like I saw a lot of Warriors fans like all of a sudden intrigued by Mason Plumlee. I couldn't tell if they were trolling or something, but I just don't think that that's a not even in it. First of all, it has to be James Wiseman. He's your only salary really to
Right.
move, which is just so difficult. He's also probably your toughest because he makes over 12 million next year. You need a team that wants to take a flyer on
Mhm.
him.
Yeah, that's not a cheap flyer. I think, yeah, you mentioned Plumlee, like the whole Jakob Poeltl brief dalliance made no sense to me, even less sense really, just because like so you're just not going to play like Looney or Draymond playing less does not seem like the solution to what's wrong with the Warriors. So and then you've got Pirtle that you'd have to theoretically pay a 20 million a year to keep, which is like a non-starter for me. So what they need, I think, is just who's well, what they need is like the healthy version of 32-year-old Andre Iguodala, or even like the what Porter did last year. They need a forward who knows how to play, can move the ball, will hit spot up shots. It's not like a big role, but it's something they don't have. That they're asking. Anthony Lamb is one of the biggest two-way contract success stories of the season, but he's not someone I think they believe in to the degree they did Porter. Certainly not Iguodala. They need that type. They need a forward, a 3-4 guy that can shoot, that can defend, that understands how to play in the system. And it's just like, okay, that's like 4 guys in the whole league. So like I don't know if the trade market is how they get there.
I do have a trade that I think is somewhat nuclear, and the only reason I thought of it is because you gave me time um to extra time before the podcast to actually workshop it. And the framework is complicated, but I'll give you before getting into the details, if you were to give up James Wiseman and Jordan Poole for or can you even are you even like mentally prepared for what's about to happen right now?
Well, what is Poole's salary going to count for? Because
It
he's
does
got
it
like
doesn't it doesn't matter because I made it work financially.
okay. So like what level of player do I need to get back?
I'm just like, do you even see where this is going?
I
Like
have
even
no idea.
Jordan Poole, James Wiseman for Keldon Johnson.
Oh man. God, I wish that's such a good trade. I, I think I don't think Keldon Johnson is quite the like basketball IQ type of veteran the Warriors would ideally want. But God, his contract's good and he's young and he plays really hard and he's a 20-point scorer on a bad team. Oh, that's really tough. I mean, take Wiseman out of it. Just if it were Poole for Keldon Johnson straight up, I think I would hesitate. Uh, I like that. How did you do that? How do you make that
So
work?
because the Spurs have 26
The cap
million in cap
space.
space,
Yeah.
but it's still complicated because just there's the discrepancy in what the teams are, worth going at what their Jordan Poole's worth to the Warriors going out versus coming in. That the Spurs cap space actually isn't enough, and so I ended up going Keldon Johnson to the Warriors, James Johnson, Jordan Poole, James Wiseman, and 2 second-round picks to the Spurs, and then Zach Collins and Isaiah Roby to the Indiana Pacers.
Okay. Oh, you roped in the other cap space team. That
I
was
actually
smart.
don't even think you need to do the James Johnson like Roby thing there. I don't even know why I included that, to be honest with you. So like I think you could just get it done with, forget that element of it. But like Zach, you'd be giving up. Zach Collins has played really well.
Yeah.
I thought about, would the Pacers give you the less favorable of Boston's or Cleveland's first round pick to get Zach Collins, who has another year left on his deal? And it's just again, you talk about someone who could play with or without Miles Turner. I don't think it would be unreasonable for them
Yeah.
to think along
But
those
just in
lines.
a vacuum, do you value Jordan Poole on his contract or Keldon Johnson on his as the better asset?
Oh, it's Keldon Johnson by fucking far.
Just because of the money, or because Poole again? Well, I'll harp on this, and
Or we could just talk about how Keldon Johnson's the better player. But
that's what I mean. Like,
yeah,
I think that's probably true this year, but then Poole plays the role that's harder to fill, like the shot creator role. I don't know. I ask because I don't know. That's a close
it's
enough
yeah,
call.
and like punting on that without getting a shot creator back was difficult. And again, is Jordan Poole like a better trade asset when his money actually kicks in? But I don't know if I'm going to list that when I actually do like the Bleacher Report project of, because the only other like sort of James Wiseman thing I thought of is just like if you could give up James Wiseman and you're figuring out a way to get back Zach Collins and Josh Richardson, like does that move the needle for you?
Yeah, I think that Richardson's close to the type of player I think they're looking for. He's a little smaller than you'd want, but yeah, you could imagine him in a closing lineup potentially if Poole just can't guard his guy, or if there's a lot of possibilities there.
But you ultimately wouldn't do the Pool for Keldon Johnson one.
Man, so Poole's another guy that I feel like they'd be trading at a like, kind of a low point. But it's possible that Poole just is someone that is not going to be on this team for a long time. Him or Draymond potentially. I think it's
Also,
like I
Keldon,
would.
the other thing is Keldon Johnson, having him knowing Draymond could leave in free agency is not nearly the same level of defensive player, but as someone who could fill like I know he's an undersized four, and so you're not
Yeah.
going to get the 5 minutes out of him, but just the idea of having his downhill assaults,
Mhm.
I, he intrigues me more. I get the shot creation concerns though of giving up Jordan Poole in such a deal, not getting someone to fill that.
Yeah, it's close. Ask me tomorrow. I'd say I probably would do it today. Ask me tomorrow, and I might change my mind.
It was at least like a thinker, right? I bet you
Oh
weren't
yeah,
expecting that was, but don't give me 15 extra minutes is the moral of this
yeah.
story.
Or else I get put to difficult decisions that make me anxious.